Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido, and today it is the Cinnabar Blazers going up against the Olivine Raiders. And as these two sides have a look at their opening hands, let's have a look at this tale of the tape between these two sides that are quickly building a rivalry here. Because for the Cinnabar Blazers, they have played absolute spoiler to the Olivine Raiders since their debut in the PokeType League TCG. Not once have the Blazers dropped a game to the Raiders, and they want to continue that here today. So with all that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the fire decks? Will it be the metal decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And starting off this matchup and going first, it is the Ultra Wormhole deck of the Olivine Raiders, as they are looking at that Meltan in hand. They've also got the Stack Attacker, and they have the Dusk main Necrozma, but they're going with the Meltan in the active spot, placing the other two on the bench for the Cinnabar Blazers. They've got their heel turn deck. They've got the two Salandits plus a Litany in hand, and we can see a Pokeball, so they're guaranteed another basic Pokemon on their first turn if they play that. But here we go, our game one of this 3-game series between these two sides, where all 3 games count towards the leaderboard. You get 2 points for each of these 3 games you win. So even if you take the series in the first 2 games, that third game is still important, as the Beast Wall is pulled by the Raiders. Now that is beneficial for Ultra Beast Pokemon, which is what is on the bench for the Raiders and this Ultra Wormhole deck at the moment. But already the Salazzle has been pulled for the Blazers. They play the Pokeball as well, so they do get another basic Pokemon, being the Heatran, who we did see in Season A2, but as the Blazers didn't have enough fire types, they were able to draft it into Season A3 here, and we get that Gnaw, and they're capitalizing on that type advantage that the Blazers have over the Raiders, doing 40 damage to the Meltan here. It is the Poison Bar being pulled by the Raiders, but already things are not looking good for them here against the Blazers, who the benefit for them is they get online so quick, and with that type advantage over the metal types, they capitalize quick here, as Meltan is going to get its first energy. It also gets the Poison Barb put onto it here, and the Raiders are having a look at their hand. They've got the Beastite, they've got the leftovers, and they've got the Beast Wall. They're actually going to retreat the Meltan as well. Even after just putting that Poison Barb on it, they want to make use of this Beast Wall, because it can only be played whilst the opposing side does not have any points, but it will reduce the damage that Stack Attacker takes by 20. The Blazers have pulled their second Litany, but it's the Salazzle. This is the heated Poison Salazzle. It does 30 damage, but it also leaves the opposing Pokemon both poisoned and burned. And thanks to that weakness, it would have done an extra 20 damage, but it was also offset by that Beast Wall. But again, that poisoning and the burn already coming into play. It is time for the checkup though, and the Raiders do flip the head. So Stack Attacker has been cured of that burn that does 20 damage in between turns. It's the Repel being pulled by the Raiders, but they can only use that against opposing active Pokemon. And since Salazzle is a stage 1, it is not usable, but they are starting to set up the Necrozma here, who does require 3 energy. So they're willing to let the Stack Attacker just sit there and take the hits from this Salazzle. That heated poison is such a dangerous thing to go up against, as it is the second Heatran being pulled for the Cinnabar Blazers here. And these two sides met last season, and it was the Blazers that gave the Raiders their first ever defeat, and then they did it again inside Victory Road, as that heated poison gets another 50 damage onto the Stack Attacker, discarding it from the board, and the Blazers take the early lead as they want to continue the momentum they have over the Olivine Raiders. And it is the Meltan being moved into the active spot. It only has 20 health remaining. It is the X-Speed being pulled by the Raiders, but it looks like they're trying to buy themselves a bit of time to set up this Necrozma with that offense of being able to do 100 damage. It does have to discard an energy when it does go on the offensive as well, but it is that rare candy being pulled by the Cinnabar Blazers and this heel turn deck. They are going to get the second Heatran onto the bench, it looks like, having already got 1 energy onto the other Heatran. They only require 2 energy for that Rage and Mad Strike that does 40 damage. They do an additional 40 if they've already taken damage, and again, that's not even including the weakness that the Raiders have, as it looks like they're going to actually retreat the Salazzle here. The Blazers want to keep the Salazzle in play. They're going to bring the Heatran into the active spot. Now, again, with the Heatran, it will only do 40 damage, but that is more than enough to take down the Meltan. And there is 60 damage, wiping this Meltan off the board. The Poison Barb coming into play, so Heatran is going to be left with that poison that will do the 10 damage. This puts it in discard range from this Necrozma with that black metal that we were talking about, 100 damage, and that is exactly how much Heatran health Heatran has left, but it is going to be the Professor's Research pulled by the Raiders. They play that immediately, they get the Guzma, they get a Pokeball, so they can get another basic Pokemon out of their deck, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They get the second stack attacker here. And they do get that third energy. They could put the Beast-type onto Necrozma if they wanted to as well. That allows it to do an additional 10 damage for each point that the Raiders have taken. So far they haven't taken a single point in this game, so it doesn't actually come into play yet. But with this black metal being able to do 100 damage, they are going to take their first point as they're looking to bring this back against the Blazers and take their first ever win against them in the PokeType League TCG. But it is the Salazzle being moved back into the active spot with that Heatran being discarded. Again, that Heated Poison, 30 damage, plus the 20 weakness, plus the poisoning, plus the burn damage. That is going to add up real quick for the Olivine Raiders here as the Blazers looking at their hand. They're going to move their second Salander into that final bench slot. They get the second energy back onto that active Salazzle, and here it is, the Heated Poison. As we said, 50 damage onto the Necrozma. It's left with the poison to do an additional 10 damage. It's left with the burn that does an additional 20, and already this Necrozma only has 30 health left. They're going for the burn checkup, and again they get the head, so Necrozma is cured of the burn, but it has enough offensive power to take down this Salazzle. Raiders have just pulled the Melmetal, but unfortunately that Meltan was discarded long ago as they're thinking about how they want to take the approach with this turn. They can't put the leftovers onto Necrozma because it can only have one Pokemon tool attached to it. They're taking their time, they don't want to rush this against the Blazers. They are currently sitting in second place. They know how important that is as they want to try and take that top spot on the leaderboard heading into Victory Road, and they definitely don't want to meet the Blazers there as it is 110 damage from the black metal onto Salazzle, wiping it off the board, and it is a 2-point v 2-point game here. The next point will take game 1 in this 3-game series, but it is the Salander moved into the active spot who only requires 1 energy. It is the rare candy being pulled for the Blazers, but that's not what they're concerned. They want to maximize their damage. They get the energy for the Ember onto Salander, and another 50 damage, and Necrozma is wiped off the board, and the heel turn deck takes game 1 over the Ultra Wormhole deck as the Blazers look to continue their undefeated streak against the Raiders. But if you're enjoying what you're seeing as we have this table reset, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the action in the PokeType League TCG, as it is going to be that Crimson Invasion deck for the Blazers going first. They've got the Growlithe, they've got the Torkoal. We can already see the Arcanine that they have in hand. They will be going up against that Super Burst Impact deck of the Raiders. We can see that they've got the Ferroseed in hand, plus the Ferrothorn and the 2 Professor's Research. Now it is going to be the Growlithe for the Blazers in the active spot, the Torkoal on the bench. There's the Ferroseed immediately being put down by the Raiders, but here we go. It is game 2. And this time it is the Blazers going first. They do pull that big Melisada. They've got their own Beast-type because they've got the Blacephalons inside this deck as well. The Raiders pull the Pokeball, so they've got the Pokeball to guarantee they can get a basic Pokemon onto the bench. You do not want to lose a game because you have no basic Pokemon on the bench, and it is the Magearna being pulled. The Professor's Research as well, getting another 2 cards. They get the Potion, they get the second Ferroseed here. Now Ferroseed does require 2 energy, so they can't actually go on the offensive on this turn, but Growlithe requires 2 energy as well, so this will buy the Raiders a bit of time, getting both basic Pokemon onto the bench, and they do get a first energy here onto the Ferroseed. Sending it back over to the Blazers, and there it is, that Blacephalon full art, and that is part of being the reigning champions. The Cinnabar Blazers taking that champions game last season. That's why they get the flare, that's why they got that full art, and here it is, Growlithe getting its first energy here, sending it back over to the Raiders who pull their second Magearna. They've got a second Professor's Research, so they play that immediately as well. They get the X speed, they get the Poison Barb. They could use that as a deterrent to try and offset the Blazers from going on the offensive. And they do get that Poison Barb onto the Ferroseed here. Keeping in mind they still have that Ferrothorn in hand. They could get that online if they so choose, but it does require 3 energy to do such a thing. Do get the second energy here onto the Ferroseed. We can see that they're taking a much slower approach than we normally see from teams. They know how much of a task it is for them to try and take down the Blazers as the Spike Sting, 40 damage here onto the Growlithe, and it comes back over to the Blazers who pull their own Professor's Research now. Now looking through their hand, They've also got that Guzma, so they could discard that Poison Barb if they so choose, but they go with the Professor's Research, 1 supporter card per turn, and speaking of supporter cards, they do pull the Lucamine, allows them to get 2 energy from their discard pile onto an Ultra Beast, that being Blacephalon, who does require 3 energy. Now they've got the second energy onto the Growlithe, but they've got the Arcanine in hand as well. Growlithe only has 30 health remaining. It does 30 damage, it would get that weakness as well, so it'd do an additional 20 to Ferroseed, but not enough to take it down. And they're really contemplating if they want to get this Arcanine online, and it is. That Fire Main will do 80 damage, but they won't be able to go for it until the next turn. So there's not much else that the Blazers can do at the moment, so they do finish up their turn here, sending it back over to the Raiders, who do pull the leftovers. Now, like we said earlier, 1 Pokemon tool per Pokemon, so they cannot place that onto the Ferroseed, but they've just gotten an energy onto the Magina, and now the Ferroseed has been evolved into a Ferrothorn. They can't go for it. They've made a crucial error all that time that they've been taking here in this matchup, and the Raiders with this Super Burst Impact deck have made a huge mistake. The Blazers could capitalize here. They are going to play the Guzma. This immediately rids that Poison Barb from the Ferrothorn, but the Blazers have done the exact same thing. They've just put an energy onto the Torkoal, which means Arcanine can't go on the offensive either. They do get that big Malasada though onto Arcanine to restore its health by 10, but what are these two sides thinking? They need to keep their head in the game. They know there's a lot of pressure as we're around that midpoint of the season right now. It comes back over to the Raiders. They could capitalize here on the Blazers' mistake, since the Blazers didn't capitalize on the Raiders' mistake, and here it is. They quickly get the energy onto the Ferrothorn. They did just pull the Diglett, but there's 70 damage onto the Arcanine. It comes back over to the Blazers, who do pull their second Torkoal, and they are going to give it that last bench spot. They did hesitate for a moment there, so I was about to stop myself, but it is the Arcanine getting its third energy, and with that Fire Main, 100 damage onto the Ferrothorn, but with that Steel Spikes ability, it does 20 damage back to the Arcanine. Now, Arcanine still has 10 health remaining thanks to that big Malasada. It is the Alolan Dugtrio being pulled for the Raiders, so they get the Diglett online into that final bench spot now, and does get its first energy. Dugtrio does require 2 energy, as Ferrothorn can wipe Arcanine off the board here with that spinning attack. It has 10 health remaining itself, but the Raiders have just taken the first point here in game 2. This is huge for them to be ahead of the Blazers. They just need 2 more points. They need to keep the momentum, but it is the Torkoal with 1 energy moved into the active spot. It does require 1 more energy as the second Blacephalon has been pulled. They do get that second energy on the Torkoal. They're also going to play the Lucamine, so it gets those 2 energy onto Blacephalon, as Torkoal does have to discard an energy when it goes with this Flamethrower. 90 damage onto the Ferrothorn, wiping it off the board, immediately leveling the playing field between the Crimson Invasion and Super Burst Impact decks here. 1 point each. There is that 20 recall damage onto the Torkoal, as well as the Raiders need to think about how they want to approach this. And they're going with the Diglett. You have to think they're going to try and get this Dugtrio online with that Iron Head. It is a coin flip though, and they need it to be heads, because as soon as it's tails, it stops going on the offensive. But if it's a heads, it keeps going. It will need 2 though to take down this Torkoal. So moment of truth, and they get the tails straight away. The Iron Head is cut off immediately, doing 0 damage to the Torkoal. This is fantastic for the Blazers, because Dugtrio is also weak to the fire types, and it only has 90 health. It is the XP that's just been pulled by the Blazers as well. As the Blazers think about what they want to do with this energy, they do decide to go with the Torkoal and another Flamethrower, and another point for the Crimson Invasion deck, taking the lead here over the Super Burst Impact deck. And now all of a sudden things look terrible for the Raiders. They move the Magina into the active spot. It's already got an energy on it here. Magina does have 90 health as well. And they needed that Dugtrio to get those 2 heads. Even if it had gotten 1, Magina would have been able to take down Torkoal here. But with the Flash Cannon, it's only going to do 40 damage, as Torkoal doesn't have an ability. They do pull the Repel, do the Blazers, but they're going to play the X speed. They want to maximize their damage. Normally you'll see sides that immediately go for an elimination out of respect, but they also want to maximize damage for that leaderboard. And this Beat Punk of Blacephalon does 130 damage. That's not counting the weakness, and they're playing the Beast Knight, so it will do an additional 20, because they've already taken those 2 points as well. This is going to do 170 damage, and Magina is wiped out of existence in game 2. As the Blazers have taken the series and they're looking to go for the clean sweep as we have our final board reset. And again, it will be the Blazers going first here in game 3 as they're looking to take all 6 points, 2 points for each game you win. They are using their Well of Volcano deck and they've got the Fletchling in hand, moving that into the active spot. We can see the Fletchinder already in hand as well. They're going to get that Turtonator full art as well onto the bench as they're going up against the laser focus deck of the Olivine Raiders. Only Morwell is the only basic Pokemon they have in hand, so they get that onto the bench. But here we go, our game 3, the Blazers looking for the clean sweep, the Raiders just looking for their first ever win over the Cinnabar Blazers. As it is the Professor's Research, they get the Talonflame and the Oricorio to the Blazers. They've also got that leftovers and they have the second Oricorio already in hand, as it is the Aggron being pulled for the Olivine Raiders. And they've got the 2 Aggrons in hand, they've got the big Malasada and the leftovers as well. Now Morwell with that powerful Vice that does 30 damage, but they require 2 energy on it. This gives the Blazers an opportunity as they pull their second Fletchling. Now it is a colorless type, but it does evolve into Fletchinder, this fire type card. And this allows them to also capitalize on that weakness advantage they have over the Raiders, because Fletchinder only requires 1 energy, and with this steady fire breathing, it's going to do 50 damage to Morwell, bringing its health all the way down to 20 this quickly into game 3. The Raiders have pulled the Sophocles because they do have that metal type Togedemaru inside this deck, as the powerful Vice 30 damage onto Fletchinder here. And if they flip ahead, Fletchinder will be left with that paralysis, because unbeknownst to the Raiders, the Blazers have already got their Talonflame in hand, but they do flip the tail, so it doesn't go their way anyway. The second Fletchinder has been pulled for the Blazers. They can get that online immediately, and that is exactly what they do. Now the Talonflame with this Fire Wing, it does 90 damage, but it will do 110 thanks to that weakness. Morwell is an easy target. Aggron on the bench is an easy target, and Aggron requires 4 energy. This is not good for this very energy hungry deck of the Raiders here, as the first point has been taken for the Blazers. Aggron is moved into the active spot, and the Raiders, they pull their rare candy so they can actually get Aggron online right now and try and buy themselves a bit more time, because Aggron cannot outlast a hit from Talonflame here, who I have to avoid calling Fletchinder, even though my mind wants to say that for some reason. But it is the Aggron being moved into the active spot thanks to the rare candy. It gets its first of 4 required energy, but there's not much else they can do, so they send it back over to the Blazers, who pull the Kiawe. Now if they use Kiawe, it will immediately generate 2 energy for the Turtonator, who does require 3, but it ends the Blazers' turn immediately, so they're not going to play that now. Instead they go with another Fire with 110 damage onto the Aggron. And it is the second Aggron being pulled for the Raiders. Aggron is an extremely easy target, so they're going to get an energy here onto the Aggron on the bench. There's not much else they can do. They're not going to waste an energy on the Aggron, who takes 4 energy to also retreat, not just go on the offensive. The Blazers pulling their own rare candy, get a second energy onto the Turtonator, who does 90 damage itself, but with this Fire Wing from the Talonflame, 110 damage, and Aggron has been discarded. The Blazers are in full control, melting the Raiders away once again, as they have done on every occasion between these two sides. They have the Raiders number, who have just pulled the Morwell. They can get an energy onto the Aggron, who can go on the offensive, so they can try and offset a little bit of damage, but this is not the side they like to clash with. They absolutely do not want to run into them inside of Victory Road. They get the headbutt, but they know how this is about to end. 40 damage onto the Talonflame. The Blazers pull the rare candy, but that's not what they're concerned with. They are concerned with the clean sweep and the utter humiliation of the Olivine Raiders. A truly powerful side, but when they come up against the Blazers, things do not go their way. And with this massive win for the Blazers, they move up into 4th place. The Raiders stay in 2nd, as next round the Raiders are going up against the Turffield Ebonies. The Blazers next round are going up against the 3rd place Opelucid Frontiers. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what cards you pulled today. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.